Today I'm going to do a stuffed peppers recipe with a Mr. D thermal cooker and either the Remoska standard, I haven't decided yet, or the Remoska Tria. And what I've done now is I've put 2 medium onions in the inner pot of the Mr. D. I'm going to fry that. I'll show you the ingredients. They'll be as usual below the video. A really reduced half price pound of mince, 12% fat. I like nothing more than 12%. In here is about 2 inches of ginger, 2 chilies, which one will be suitable for most people, and about 4 pods of garlic. I like the garlic, so I've got 4 in there, maybe 5, I can't remember now. What else is being used is salt, pepper, bisto grate, and an oxo cube. Boy, this is such an easy recipe, this. Anyway, I'll show you as I go it. Right, the onions are just, and I can't be, I say this a lot when I'm doing curries and things, are just light brown. You can see that there. Don't worry about things sticking to the bottom, because when you add liquid to cook later on, that'll all come off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the chilli, garlic and ginger, which has been chopped. And again, the object is to get them dark brown. So get this all out. So we get all that out. Clear that out. You see that in there. You sometimes have to add a little bit more oil because the garlic or ginger, I think it might be the ginger, that absorbs a little bit of oil. But anyway, it does come out eventually. So that's in there. And now I'm going to stir fry this until they're light brown, but I've turned down the temperature now, so I was frying the onion on 7 on the electric ring I've got, and I'm going to add a tiny bit more oil, not much, I've now reduced it to half, about half, which is number 5, and so you've got to stir this little bit from time to time as the temperature drops, because otherwise the garlic and the ginger and the chilies tend to stick to the bottom. So yeah, keep an eye on it, make sure it doesn't stick too badly. It doesn't matter if the odd bit sticks, it's never a disaster if you miss things. Most things you can recover. Burnt onions, very burnt onions, you cannot recover. I'm afraid that means starting again. But you can certainly taste burnt onions if they're too bad. I went to a restaurant in Grenada when I sailed my yacht there, and everybody told me about this restaurant, said how great it was. It was packed with people, mainly Americans, and I went in there and I had this meal, and with one bite I just knew they'd burnt the onions. I got a little bit offended because I'd have thought that looking at my face they'd know not to serve crap, but anyway they did. Anyway, my person I was eating dinner with thought it was wonderful, so there you go, there's 2 sides to every story. Right, it's gone brown, and there I think you can see I've caught a little bit at the bottom there despite stirring it, and I'm going to use my time invested method to get rid of that. Just a dribble of water, not much, tiny bit of water, and that should come off after a bit. But anyway, now I'm going to add the mince, which I've got a brown, and you need to break up mince, of course, which is what I'm doing here. So, and all that brown at the bottom is slowly coming off. With a Mr. D, the temperature before you put it into the thermal cooking pot is important, and therefore we'll have to do that in a minute and get that up to temperature. At the moment I'm going to start browning it, but what I'm going to do now is it's a convenient way to do it. I'm going to add salt to taste, which in my case is always the palm method, which is that, and that goes in. I'll add the pepper and all that a bit later on. Right, you can see at the bottom there now, if I move that, because most of it's come off now that was on the bottom. It does no harm. It does come off if you add water and liquid. So now we're back to that. Now I've got to brown this meat in midway. I might put the temperature up to number 6, which is slightly higher to help with the browning, because also we've got to heat the meat through. So yeah, that was the right temperature, because you can hear it sizzling now. Right, I've just browned that. Incidentally, I've got a Remoska standard here, which just would have fitted the pot lovely. And it says that you can fry onions and fry garlic, ginger in there, just using the top. But of course, I haven't got a glass top. I've got the steel top. I'd like to know if anybody else, when I put this on the YouTube channels, sorry, FaceTube as well, if somebody can say how successful they are at that. But anyway, now we're moving on. Here is the OXO cube. One of the reasons why I only put a relatively small amount of sugar in here was because it's you got stock cubes going in there and have a natural saltiness themselves. And here's 3 teaspoons of bisto. And I'm taking a teaspoon of black pepper. That goes in. And now I'm adding we'll just give it a stir first. And I'm going to add, now if I was doing this normally on the top in a normal pot, which I could do in this, it'd be cooked in 40 minutes. But I want to leave to Mr. D and do it later on, so it's, you know, it's part of the Mr. D experience. So anyway, that's in there now. I might just add, now that is enough, that actually is enough water in there, but because it's a Mr. D, I need to add a tiny bit more. Right, so that's everything in there now. The peppers will have to be stopped. I just want to, the problem with Mr. D though, it's getting the liquid right. I'm just going to add a tiny bit more. Right, that's all I'm going to do in there. It's not anywhere near full, but it's there. Right. So we've got to bring that up now to a boil, and then reduce it and simmer it now for about 10 minutes, and then it goes into the Mr. D. Right, there's the inner pot for Mr. D. It's been simmering now for 10 minutes. It's going to go into this, which I'll put in now. Make sure you've got the handle lined up with the slots, and then we've put the lid down. There's little slots in the lid, they need to go in there, and then they seal. Now what's very important with Mr. D, I've noticed loads of times before, is that you need something on top to either a weight, or in this case I've got a strap. And basically you need to tighten that down to hold it down to get the full vacuum, because this is a thermal cooker. Now, truthfully, I could have continued to cook this 40 minutes, the mince would have been ready. But of course, the Mr. D is when you're going sailing out for the day. You've got to come back and do it. Now they reckon at least 4 hours, but as it's mince, and I fried it brown before I started, and I did 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes at boil. It's now in here. It's now 1:30 by my clock. 4 hours would be 5:30. Is that right? Well, I'm going to only give it 3 hours, 3.5 hours maybe, and that should be ample, because then I've got to put it in one of the Mr. D's and roast it. Temperature for normal ovens, given in the recipe before, and incidentally, this is the same recipe you may have noticed if you've done my cottage pie. It's the same meat recipe, but of course we don't do it. We finish it differently. But there we are. It's a very tasty meal. Right, I'm now taking out the inner of the Mr. D. Let's put that to one side. Hopefully it's now will be cooked, but it hasn't held the heat as much as it would do, which is because it didn't have it so high. It's all cooked. Yeah, it's not steaming hot. It's because it was too small in quantity. So with the Mr. D, then you need to fill it up, either putting, I don't know, perhaps water or something down below and cooking it in the top half. Anyway, here's the I'm now filling the peppers. I'm going to do them in the Remoska Tria. Right. And I'll get on filling these, and then I'll put the breadcrumbs on. You can see what I'm doing. Right, that's this is golden breadcrumbs on top. So I'm just putting this in there. Spread it on using a spoon, and that's all done. And now I'm going to put it on the Remoska. And I'm going to put the lid on. I'll show you that in a moment. The first problem is that this normally goes into 180 degrees. I'm not sure what the Remoska cooks at, but I think around about 200 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this thing in first, like that. Then we'll switch this and put it on, and then for 20 minutes I'm going to do it like this, and then take it off for the last 10 minutes and see what it looks like. It's on now. Well, it's perfect. I just looked it up. It's 180 degrees. So in effect, 30 minutes in the conventional oven, 180 degrees would be all right. 30 minutes in a Moscow, of course, it will take a few some time to cut the cooking temperature, but it won't take long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 15 minutes with that silver foil on, then 15 minutes off until it looks like it should be. 15 minutes has gone by now, or will be gone in a few seconds, and now we're going to take the thing off. Yeah, it does need a bit of browning. Yes, so we'll see what happens now. So we'll see what happens. It's going to take a while. It may even be another 20 minutes or so. There's the silicone thing we got, the lifting strap, and we can now put the plates in it, and it keeps it clear, I think, of the holes. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, it looks like it has.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Well, that's it, fully cooked through a bit. Looks all right to me. And we're going to have that with potatoes, boiled potatoes and vegetables.